Fire!
I said, something's wrong here, something's really wrong, can't have happened, and we fight. We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. As this enormous crowd shows, we have truth and justice on our side. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania. And we're going to the Capitol. We're going to try and give our Republicans, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. give up. We will never concede.
We can take that place.
And then do what?
Take on fight.
Christmas.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11.
Several years ago, my chief interest has been the study of the possible life on other planets.
The reports we received were rather strange. So strange, we've decided to have a team of scientists fly down there and take a look.
But the first stage in the realization of a piece of music is to construct the individual sounds that we're going to use. To do this, we can, if you like, go to these sound generators here, electronic generators, and using one of them, we can pick up any sound we can possibly imagine almost.
Well, hi there, folks. It's me, Big Ugly Jim, doing that thing that I do every Saturday. And this Saturday is a very special Saturday because it's Christmas Eve. And Christmas Eve, or December Ween, is the most wonderful time of the year. I say that mostly, tongue in cheek, because as someone who is not religious, it really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. That said, I do celebrate the Christmas. I do enjoy all of the Christmas stuff. I do like having, I'm going to move my camera a little bit, there we go. I do like having presents and opening presents with the kids and all that shit that you do. But I'm not a faithful man. And growing up as a faithful kid, this was like the greatest time of the year, and it was chock full of just real beautiful things. I grew up in a church that was nowhere near what many people experienced from their faith. My church was like good. They were caring people. They were like all ex-hippies, and they just had like a sense of community and warmth and compassion and stuff. And that was my experience growing up of the Christian faith, and it was a really, really cool way to grow up. And then I saw through all the things and was like, oh, this doesn't make sense. But I do have warm memories of all of the childhood stuff, going for Christmas Eve services and the family. I remember my parents bought me a Stretch Armstrong doll because I'm super old. That was the toy that you could grab its arms and pull, and it would like stretch. And I literally had mine split down the center, and green toxic goo came out. It was super cool. But I do happen to really love Christmas, and this year is no exception. This year, I get to spend it with some of my kids, and I get to stream with you. So, what more could a fella ask for, right? It's important. It's good. I am Big Ugly Jim. I am the smallest of the small streaming Andes. I am a member of the affiliate program on Twitch, which means that I hit certain milestones. I don't even know what they are. That means that there are now ads and things. I'm kind of thinking I might just step out of the affiliate program, because I literally tell people not to subscribe to me, because this is not my gig. This isn't my career. This is just a thing I do for fun once a week, and I enjoy doing it, but I'm not going to be the big streaming dude. I'm a Gen X guy. Nobody gives a shit what we have to say about anything. And there's not an audience on like, for someone like me in a grand scheme. Like, I have no false notions of my importance or anything. I'm just the guy who sometimes likes to, sit on a Saturday afternoon and just chat, which is fun. So that's kind of the thing. So please don't subscribe. If you want to do things with money, do things in your own community that will help other people with money. That's way more gooder than anything that you could do by giving me money. I have a good job. I do just fine. This is a hobby, and a fun one, that I in no way have a plan to make into a career. But we're going to talk. We're going to talk stuff. Because it is Christmas, I thought we would start with my favorite Bible story, because it's so stupid. I did last week. I think I also started with a Bible story. I started with the story of the bears eating Elijah's enemy kids who were mean to him and called him Baldy, which is a hilarious story. But this particular one I enjoy. It's the story of Samson's riddle, and I ended up talking about it last night. I was at a Yule party with a few friends of mine doing Yule-themed things, and mostly just drinking beer and talking and eating snacks. And it was quite lovely, but we were talking, and we were talking about silly things from the world of religiosity, and I was like, that's one of my favorite stories, and it just was like, maybe I'll share that with you today. So I'm going to pop open a browser view here. And we're going to go, ooh, that's the wrong window. Where's the right window? Fuckity fuck. We're going to go to Google. And we're going to search for Judges 14. Big, cool Judges 14. So this is Samson's marriage. And there's stuff on there. All right. That's visible. Yes. Okay. So I'll try and sort of, I'll read this, and as we go, I'll break it down into modern parlance. So, Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as a wife. So we're already starting on a great note, right? He looked at a girl and was like, I could possess her with my possessing powers. Mother and father, make it so. Purchase for me the fine lass in another town. His father and mother replied, Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? Obviously, this is the classic trope of, maybe you should just why you want to date someone who ain't like us? You should date. I love how it's like, look at your cousins. There's some pretty ladies in there. Why don't you keep it in the family? But Samson said to his father, Get her for me. She's the right one for me. His parents didn't know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. For that time, they were ruling over Israel. Because God's a petty bitch. God is literally, he's super powerful. But he's also, totally weak and wussy, kind of like the enemies of fascists. And God's like, ooh, I hate those Philistines. I wish there was a way I could punish them. Like the millions of times I've just randomly punished people. But, I can't do that this time. So Samson's like, no, that's the girl for me. Go and obtain her for my sexual desires. So Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother, and they approached the vineyards of Timnah. Suddenly, a young lion came roaring toward them. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Oh, he liked her. So, essentially, going to the vineyard, out comes a lion, and much as you would with a goat or something, he just ripped it limb from limb with his manly, muy macho hands, because the Spirit of the Lord was like, fuck that lion up. Why is that lion even there? Oh, wait, I'm God. I put it there for this purpose of the story. So just, I don't know, fulfill your fucking duty, Samson. But then he sees the girl and he's like, yep, I have chosen well. And sometime later, he went back to marry her. Or when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass, because no one cleans things, right? It's just, you leave the lion's dead, ripped apart body wherever the fuck it is, right? And in it, he saw a swarm of bees and some honey, which is bullshit. Bees don't make honey inside of animals. That's a thing that typically you don't hear a lot of. But we'll pretend. Obviously, God was like, but boom, I need this. This is an important bit of foreshadowing. So, sees the lion's dead body, and there's bees and honey inside of it, obviously. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along, which is good. That, never mind this is in a carcass of a formerly living animal that is decomposing. So there's honey inside, covered in the juices of a decomposing lion. And he's like, that's a sweet treat I'm going to enjoy. Scoop, nom nom, delicious. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they ate too. And they too ate it. But he did not tell them that he'd taken the honey from the lion's carcass. That's probably something they would have figured out later when they were violently shooting diarrhea streams everywhere because they're eating food that was inside of a rotting carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, and as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. Cool. So they started to hang out, they had a party. Tell me your riddle, Samson said to them. If you can give me the answer, or let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to them. If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. So basically, it's a swap meet, but a forced swap meet. So the 30 people are like, hey, we're assigned to be your friend. And he's like, and you owe me stuff. And they say, well, tell us your fucking riddle, dick shit. And he says, okay, Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. Which, obviously, is this image of a lion with a honeybee colony living inside of it while it festers in the hot sun. Now, that's obviously not, it's not a riddle you can get, right? Like, you know, the point of a riddle is a bunch of different things. There's clues along the way that you can use and certain patterns that will help you discern and think, logic your way through what could this be. But if you didn't know about this one specific lion's corpse in one specific place, you could not know the answer to this. So Samson is what we classically would refer to as an asshole. For 3 days, they could not give the answer. Weird, right? On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our property?" So obviously, it was a different time. If you were faced with the option of having to give some clothing and some linens, the appropriate response would be, "Oh, I shall just murder you all." That's a thing. Hey, Maria, good to see you as well. Welcome to the stream. I'm reading from Judges 14 because, you know, I don't know why. So they threaten to murder a lot of people if Samson's wife doesn't tell him the answer to the super top secret riddle. Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, "You hate me. You don't really love me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." Which I don't know is happy holidays to you. A traditional example of how one would show love. My love language is not telling people the answer to riddles, but I'm no expert on love. Just on lust and making poor life choices. Anyways, Samson's wife throws a big, like, "Oh, boo-hoo, tee-hee." You would think she would just be able to say, "Listen, dude, they're going to murder all of your family if you don't tell them what the answer to the riddle." They're very pissed off at you. But she's obviously, you know, in traditional book written by man format, it turns out that the female character is manipulative and shady. So strange. "I haven't even explained it to my father or mother," he replied. "So why should I explain it to you?" She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So on the 7th day, he finally told her because she continued to press him. Obviously, they're having a feast, and here's old whiny pants just crying, "You don't love me." Never mind the fact that he, like, just met her and obtained her through his parents. Like, no, he doesn't love you, honey. He just wants, you know, to do things to your body, which, you know, I get that. I've been horny before. But she, written by a man, nags and whines and breaks him down until he's like, "Okay, fine. I saw the impossible lion with the honey inside. That's what the answer to the riddle is." She, in turn, explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset of the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer," which is a lovely way to refer to the woman that you love and are marrying, "you would not have solved my riddle." And then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's home, and Samson's wife was given to one of his companions who had attended him at the feast. So he got pissy because they gave him the answer to his riddle. And so instead of being like, "You know what, fair play, you got the answer. I didn't think you would. I wrote some checks. I can't cash here. Let's be friends." He was like, "How about I murder a lot of people and steal all of the things, and then I'll give those things to you as my payment. And also, this is exclusively on your wife. Oh, and the woman that I love so very sorely, who wants? Who's 1, 2, 3, not it." So why do I enjoy this particular story so? Well, I'm glad you asked. See, After I had already left my faith, I was flipping around the TV, and I happened to land on a program where they were doing the whole Christian apologetics thing, talking about why these different stories were true and factual and interesting and all of that stuff. And what these guys were saying was that this story, which is essentially, in my opinion, the story of a petulant rich kid who is like, haha, I'm not very smart, but they don't know that. I'm gonna be smart, and I'm gonna get all sorts of stuff for it. And then he fucks up, gets called out, throws a tantrum, and mass murders people. Not really a heroic story, in my opinion, but it's in the Bible. And these guys are explaining why it's in the Bible, because God used Samson as his avenging fist. Remember, it was like God had been sitting around up in heaven being like, oh, those Philistines, I hate them so much, I wish I could get them. But I can't because I'm not omnipotent or something. I can only murder everyone on the planet sometimes, or the firstborn of a nation sometimes. But in this particular case, my hands are tied. So Samson comes along and he's like, perfect, we're going to use this big dumb stupid, and we're going to get those Philistines, and I'm going to smite them all, smite them so good. And then he did, and therefore God loves the Israelites. And that was their interpretation of this. And I was like, there is so much wrong with this. Like, at its core, this is a story of a tantrum. It's a story that should be embarrassing to everyone who was involved in the crafting of this story. It's also bullshit. But I mean, like, we have all in our lives seen things that are incredible. And we would know that there's no way other people would know about them. So to make a riddle and be like, haha, no one will ever guess this because it's like literally impossible to guess. That doesn't make you good at riddles. It makes you a dick. And so it's the story of a dick swung by God. And I imagine like an ethereal meat spin. And that brings joy to my brutally evil heart. I enjoy that very greatly. So that is Judges 14. Now, I am dead sure that there are people who would go to great lengths to explain how I, a dummy, don't understand the important nuance and how the word lion in the first century would have been glablublaglas, which was the Aramaic word for not necessarily a lion, but it also could refer to a series of twigs that you would actually find a beehive in, which, you know, doesn't change the fact that Samson ripped the lion apart when it charged him, and branches and sticks don't do that. But you know what I mean. People will go to great lengths to justify that because it's in that book, it's probably really awesome. And I love that. I genuinely, like, enjoy the mental gymnastics that are required for any book that we have to purport as being true, where it brushes up against the real world and turns out to not be so true. I remember reading the Celestine Prophecy. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that book, but it is essentially a garbage book of garbage. And it's like a modern. It comes across like a self-help book, but then gives you this idea that, like, and there's more. We're all part of a deep awakening, baby. And the way that it does this is it starts with, like, you know, it's basically a story. And you're reading it, and in the story, this guy starts noticing coincidences. Merry ho-ho to you, Nate. Merry ho-ho indeed. So the guy starts noticing these coincidences. And don't you, the reader, notice coincidences in your life? I mean, like, sometimes you're just walking around, and out of nowhere, Murph McGurk, who you haven't seen since high school, just pops into your mind. Some story about Murph McGurk, and you're like, oh, that was weird. I haven't thought about Murph in a while. And like 2 days later, you're at the Save On Foods, and there's Murph McGurk. Oh, like, holy shit, the universe has a message. There's a plan. Jesus is real. Or it could be that maybe you think of Murph McGurk all the time, but it just isn't really like in the front of your thoughts. And then you see Murph McGurk and you're like, didn't I just think of that guy? I did. Isn't the universe crafty? But it does this thing where it kind of implies that, no, dude, no. If you feel that, you're part of this elevated brain trust that like knows things. And then it goes on and on with these kinds of like taking things that everybody experiences and implying some kind of greater meaning to them. And what I found really weird about the book, I'm not an approachable guy. You know, this is back, I used to shave my head and like right down, and I'm big and scary looking, and like people don't approach me, which I'm 100% cool with. And I'd be on public transit and I'd be reading this shit ass book, and then someone would lean over and be like, what do you think? About what? And I'm like, the book. Is it real? Is it real? I'm like, no, it's not real. It's a book. Someone wrote a fucking book, and they just wrote down a bunch of stuff that we all experience, and they were like, hey, we're all superheroes. It's fucking stupid. And the end of the book is like, you know what? You can sign up for our newsletter to learn more about the exciting works that are happening. And I was like, oh shit, this is like it feels scammy because it's a scam. It's somebody grifting, and they wrote a grift book for grifting. And that was the first time, aside from the Bible and things like that, that I had encountered this in the wild. And I was like, that's so neat that we're still doing this dumb shit. We're still writing books to be like, yeah, normal occurrences, noticing that they're normal occurrences makes you part of us. Fucking nuts. I don't remember where I was going with that. But yeah, like, there's this thing that we do. We will take a book and just ascribe to it a bunch of stuff that it can't do. You know, like the Bible is a fantastic example of this. It's a great book if what you want is a series of disconnected stories that don't really mean anything, but include a bunch of weird stuff that somehow people think is important. Like, that's kind of what it is, right? It's a nothing burger. But people want it to mean things because there's those moments in it, right? If Jordan Peterson writes a book and says, hey, clean your room, then also, obviously, everything he says about non-conforming to gender roles people must be accurate because he wrote a book about cleaning my room that one time. And that's what the Bible is, right? I used to say, like, Tony Robbins books, because I'm old. Tony Robbins was like the guy that did the stuff like what, you know, the self-help world when I was young. And people would be like, oh my God, I read his books and they're really amazing. And I'm like, yeah, he's telling you shit that you know works. And then all the other shit that he says that's wrong, you don't have to focus on that. It's no better than going to, you know, some spiritualist who's like, someone watching the stream right now knows someone whose name begins with a letter. And someone in the stream is like, oh my God, my name, or my mom has a name that begins with a letter. I knew it was a female presence. And they're not with us now. And you go, no, I mean, she's still alive, but she's not like in the room. That's exactly what I meant. They're not physically with you right now. She has a spirit world. There's a connection that she has that needs to communicate to her. Does she have an ancestor who was a boy? Oh my God, she had a father. That's so impossible that you could have known that my mother had a father once who is dead. Holy shit. Like, it's fucking, it's nothing. It's garbage. All this shit just to try and understand the world. And you know what? At the end of the day, the world doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. There doesn't have to be a plan. There isn't a plan. It's literal, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing depressing about that. We can just look at it and be like, okay, I'm here. Clearly, I experienced the here-ness of it all. What am I going to do with that? Well, I can be an asshole. Personally, I don't like being an asshole, so I'm just not going to do that. But, you know, I'm part of a social species. Probably ought to do the things that help me, you know, maintain my role in that social species. Or I can be an asshole. I can go and, you know, be a mass murdering, you know, child eater or whatever. Like, okay, that's an option too. But it's going to come with, you know, crime and punishment shit. It's going to come up with comeuppance. So I personally choose just to live the best fucking life I can, because why wouldn't I? It feels nice. It's good to do good things and to have no promise of an eternal reward, no guarantee of you know, angelic beauty and Valhalla and whatever the fuck else. Like, none of that needs to be real. I can just be nice for the purpose of being nice. Or I could be Samson, and I could be just a fucking child throwing a massive tantrum and killing 30 people because I'm a total jerk who got called out on his jerkfulness, and just some, you know, future scribe is going to be like, oh yes, Jim was acting in God's favor. Using the might of God, he murdered all those people because it was good. God wanted them dead, but lacked the mechanism. What a weird fucking world. I don't understand. I really don't. I've always found it fascinating that the book that my parents believed so deeply in, and that when I was a kid I believed so deeply in, that I found to be a book about love and caring and community and trying to live a good life. This same book, other people read it and they're like, and this is proof that non-white people are the devil and I should do bad things. And it's like, how do you get that out of the book? And the answer is because the book's fucking open. It's just a book. It's open to interpretation. It's fucking strange shit. But I'm sure everyone's individual interpretation of it is exactly right. That's why I, an atheist, choose not to believe, because there's nothing that feels like it makes sense for me to believe. And then when everyone will fight about every little pedantic aspect of it, it's like, okay, well, y'all don't believe the same thing. This book isn't clear. If this was the actual word of a God who wanted me to follow him, he'd be fucking clear about it. There wouldn't be that, like, wait, what does this mean? It'd be like, very easy to understand. Hey, listen, do these things, don't do these things. And before anyone says, oh, but that's the case, what of the 10 Commandments? What a grossly immoral set of things, right? The 10 Commandments are mostly make sure that you love me best, followed by here are some basic rules. Don't do those. But most of the like things that we would consider important, like no child fucking, no raping people, those aren't in the commandments. There's nothing in the commandments that says you shouldn't rape a person. So maybe they're not that complete. Maybe they're not that thorough. Maybe they're not even that good. And I've done this before where I compare the 10 Commandments to the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. And I'm like, which one is more moral? It's the Satanic Temple. I think it would be funny for someone to do a Shakespeare-style version of the Bible with one side of page being the text as it is and the other side being a modern atheist translation. Totally. I would enjoy the shit out of that. I love that idea. Except it would be like a book this big. But maybe you would like just do chapter by chapter, like a you know, The Green Mile when it was originally written, which was fucking brilliant, by the way. Stephen King had like a 1,200-page book or whatever, and was like, you know, I kind of want a lot more money, so rather than making a 1,200-page book that will cost $15, let's make 6 200-page books and charge $4 a piece. And we get the same amount of words out there, but I get a lot more money. Brilliant. And then you can release the compiled Green Mile. El Milo de Verde. That's probably not what it is, but whatever. Duolingo hasn't taught me the imperial system yet. You would have to do chapter by chapter. That would be way too big. And the Gospels would make killings as individual books come easier. Oh, yeah, totally. And the nice thing about the Gospels is it's basically like you copy and paste and then just tweak where they disagree with each other, or where, you know, one has a story that doesn't exist in the other books or whatever. I enjoy the fuck out of all of this stuff. And like it would be ridiculous to assume that a book written by shepherds 2,000 years ago would be consistent. You know, with all of the times it's been translated, all of the different meanings of words that evolve over time, of course it's going to be impossible. But if there was a really real God, he'd find a way. Or he'd be like, poof, here I am, God. I've got a new translation for y'all because you're making mistakes along the way, and I just thought I'd clear up some shit. But instead, you have to have atheists go, why does this story happen? Why is it okay that Samson is a child baby? What the fuck? That was a lot of fucking chat over like, you know, what is essentially a very short, dumb story. But that's what I do. I babble. All right, let's move on to another topic. That one's going to be too long. We'll do that when I come back from a smoke break. Wanted to talk about what I referred to lovingly as the incalculable benefit of infinite pockets, why it's either the rich or the government that have to build big things. I was listening to some thing the other day, and it was a discussion of like how the internet actually began, going back to like DARPA and the DARPA net, and the defense agencies wanting a mechanism by which we could easily, you know, and securely share information. Well, securely wasn't a thing at the time. Share information between researchers and military and schools, and, you know, things like that, and how it evolved to where it is today. It was a really, really good video. But, you know, it's one of those things that you always hear these people who are like, small government, small government, small government. And I, a libertarian, do not want big government. But this is where I want big government. I want big government in the area where there are massive works that need to be done at a state level. We should be doing these things. And that's really, like, if you think about like infrastructure, right? The big U.S. infrastructure bill was being bandied about a while back in the media quite a bit. And what was the thing? Well, the issue is we have roads, we have dams, we have railways, we have bridges. All of these things are shared public infrastructure, and they haven't been looked after. And the looking after them when you leave it to the city or the state or whatever just doesn't happen because it's expensive to do. So the giant state, the, you know, country government kind of thing, has to periodically go, here is a shitfuck pile of money. Let's fix these things so that people don't die, or that, you know, commerce isn't disrupted, or that, you know, that you can still get from Allentown to Smirklesburg or whatever the fuck, right? That has to happen. Going to the moon, contrary to what Mr. Bezos might want you to think, going to the moon was a very complex problem and required essentially that kind of nation-state funding, right? We didn't do that in private industry. In fact, if you think about that, like, private industry has had, since the first moon landing, to come up with a private version of this. And the best we've got is Bezos went really high up in the sky, so high that it felt like he was in outer space, but he was not in outer space. He was just in fuck off high. Which, you know, like, cool. You did an interesting thing. You did it for all the wrong reasons, and there was no benefit to the world or even to you, aside from, you know, dick waving. But cool, you did that. But we have had, what, like 60? When was the moon landing? I never know. Not that it was real, you know. Obviously, George Soros, you know, invented. Moon landing when? I did landing when somehow. I don't know how that worked. Moon landing. July 16th, 1969 to July 20th, 1969. So since 1969, we've had a year or two. In fact, we've had essentially what 50-ish years, a little bit more than 50 years. And in that time, private industry has not landed on the moon, has not actually left the greater Earth chunk. We did that for all the wrong reasons. The Americans did that because they were like, Russia got a satellite up there. We need to own the space. So we're going to go even farther. We're going to put a man on the moon. And it would have been a ridiculous... Like, can you imagine what that conversation would have been like? Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to put a man on the moon. What the fuck, Johnny? Why are we going to put a man on the moon? Like, how are we going to get him back? What is the point? The moon is just made of cheese or something. Like, is he going to bring some chips? Or, like, what the hell are we doing? It was, however, an extremely positive thing. It resulted in a lot of very important technological innovations that are now mainstream. Things like Velcro. Like, all kinds of good came out of this. But it was essentially only possible because a nation state was like, let's just throw money at this problem until we can figure it the fuck out. And they did. And one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Cool. There are projects that, whether they have value or not, is potentially open to contemplation. But there are projects that require a national answer, because individual companies or cities or states are simply not either too poor to do them, or they are capable of doing them but have no desire. And a good example of this, hate to say it, would be climate change. We have to do stuff, right? We all kind of, well, I wouldn't say we all know that. There's a lot of people who still think that it's the lion devil words. But those people are silly in their heads. And it's a real thing. Climate change is happening. We have to make changes. We're not doing them. Because if we're leaving it to private business, yeah, private businesses, sure, they've done some carbon capture stuff, and they've done some small things along the way, and electric cars and stuff like that. But they haven't really invested in actually solving this problem. There's a very complicated series of different problems that all line up under one basic tenet of, we're using petroleum, we probably need to not. And there's other technologies that are sort of related, like coal and things that we're also using. They're all contributing to the same problem of this greenhouse effect, which is bad and we should fix. But we're not, because it's just not real. Years ago, there was a TED Talk given by Charles Venter, I want to say. Electric cars were around in the 1890s. It's totally true, right? This is not a new technology. There is new technology in something like a Tesla, but they're not changing things. They're just sort of, getting some mass production of concepts that have already existed. Where was I going? Shit, my brain. It's empty. It's hard for me to care about the modern space race when it's Elon and Bezos in the driver's seat, though Elon is to buy with his Twitter meltdowns too busy with his Twitter meltdowns to pay attention to that at the moment. A good chunk of Tesla want to either leave Tesla or leave Twitter. It's kind of hilarious to me that there's a space race between billionaires. Like, if there was an example of just masturbating on a public stage, that's what that is. There is nothing important happening there. They are not revolutionizing anything. They are just like, I want to be a spaceman today. Richard Branson or whatever, the Virgin Airlines guy, and they didn't even do it. Like, here's the point where space begins, and they're like, we're closer than most people go. Good on ya. I would imagine that last little bit pretty fucking tricky. That's where the cool shit has to come in. But yeah, with climate change, we're not making changes because businesses, while they'll be able to go, oh yeah, we have a carbon capture division, aren't we doing the green? But they're still shutting out massive amounts of petrochemicals. They're still burning massive amounts of petrochemicals in oh, I remember what I was talking about. Venter. I think it's Craig Venter. He was one of the guys who was involved in the mapping of the genome. He's the impression I get is that he has a science background, but mostly he's a businessman. But I saw him do a TED Talk, and he was talking about, oh yeah, in like 2 years' time, my people are working on, we will be able to create a bacteria that we program, and that bacteria will be programmed to inhale CO2 emissions and exhale crude oil. And this isn't actually that unreasonable a thing. You could do this if you understood a lot of different technologies. And like what a clever thing to do to make real substantive change. If you had a smokestack and all of your smoke went through all of this, goo that had was full of bacteria, and the bacteria were like, ooh, I enjoy CO2. Nom 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 nom. Ooh, I made oil. Right? That's kind of badass. When did that conversation take place? I'm gonna do a quick. Let's Google together real quick. If I can still find it, we'll find out. Craig Venter TED Talk. So I'm not gonna watch it because that's a thing. 2001. Craig. It may give us a little bit of information here. So that's him, biologist, genetics pioneer. In 2001, Craig Venter made headlines for sequencing the human genome. Not entirely true. In 2003, he started mapping the ocean's biodiversity, and now he's created the first synthetic life forms, microorganisms that can produce alternative fuels. See, I didn't make this up. This is what they said. I did not push the button, so you can't see what I'm talking about. And then I pushed the wrong button because I'm apparently new at being good at stuff. So this is Craig Venter, and this is the thing that I just read in the voice of the guy who does the TV or the trailers. Craig Venter, the man who led the private effort to sequence the human genome, is hard at work now on even more potentially world-changing projects. First, there's his mission aboard the Sorcerer II, a 92-foot yacht, which in 2006 finished its voyage around the globe to sample, catalog, and decode the genes of the ocean's unknown microorganisms. Quite a task when you consider that there are tens of millions of microbes in a single drop of seawater. Then there's the J. Craig Venter Institute, a non-profit dedicated to researching genomics and exploring its societal implications. Oh shit, pushed the wrong button. Fuck, I'm nailing it today, hey? In 2005, Venter founded Synthetic Genomics, a private company with a provocative mission to engineer new life forms. Its goal is to design, synthesize, and assemble synthetic microorganisms that will produce alternative fuels such as ethanol or hydrogen. He was on Time Magazine's 2000 list of the 100 most influential people in the world. In early 2008, scientists at the J. Craig Venter Institute announced that they had manufactured the entire genome of a bacterium by painstakingly stitching together its chemical components. By sequencing a genome, scientists can begin to custom design bootable organisms, creating biological robots that can produce from scratch chemicals humans can use, such as biofuel. And in 2010, they announced they had created synthetic life, DNA created digitally, inserted into a living bacterium, and remaining alive. So, badass, super cool work of science fiction. Obviously, I'm a fan. But I think it's fair to say there's a lot there that isn't quite filling the expectations, right? in whatever year it was, 2000, let's call it 2010, when he gave his little Teddy talkie, he was like, we're 18 months away from being able to just eat all of the CO2 that comes out of a smokestack. And it's 2022. Has not happened yet. I feel like the answer is they probably talk a lot of shit and have a lot of great ideas, and then they come up with the real world problems in dealing with those things, and they go, okay, well, we have to regroup and retrace, kind of like Elon did recently in his conversation about maybe we should just rewrite all of Twitter, the entire stack. Why would that be a bad thing? Thus proving that Elon Musk doesn't know fuck off nothing about actually how things work. He is a billionaire shitlanthropist, right? He's not doing good. He's doing what he wants. And that's cool, right? If I was a gajillionaire, I would do what I want. I would do very different things than Mr. Elon does. But okay, like capitalism, he's won. And he gets to be king for a while. Okay, cool. But like, the guy doesn't know shit. He did not create electric cars, as Maria points out. They've been around for like over 100 years. He did not create the technologies that Tesla uses. He has engineers. He did not create SpaceX. He was like, I have a need for some things. Maybe engineers will develop an answer. Oh, there's an answer. I will put some money towards this. And that's valuable and useful in giant quotation marks. But it's not like important. It's not like he's doing God's work here, like Samson. He's just a rich guy who gets to do rich guy things. Are you aware of the GM EV1 story? I believe kind of. That's the GM's first electric vehicle, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say that I'm familiar, but I feel like someone at some point has been like, oh yeah, the GM EV1, and there was a brief thing, and then I was like, I by no means am an expert. I will tell you, my drummer, Mr. Dongo, from the band Go Away Fast, has a vehicle that is a Honda. What is it? We're gonna jump into the YouTubing again, not the YouTubing, the Googling. Honda, was it the Insight Hybrid? I don't think it's Insight. Is that the thing? It's something along those lines. Anyways, it's a Honda, and it was the first sort of commercially viable hybrid vehicle, or commercially available hybrid vehicle. He has two of these, and the basically ridiculously cost efficient. Honda designed them knowing they were going to take nothing but a loss. Massive loss. But it's the race to be the first one to sort of mass produce a hybrid vehicle. And they're amazing. Like, the thing weighs like 8 ounces. I'm kidding, of course, but it's like super light because they did everything they could to reduce the amount of mass that you're moving. They did everything they could to, all of the things that, have wires, for example. You're doing the math to figure out the least possible distance all of the wires have to be, so there's not an inch of extra wiring to add weight to the thing. There's all this stuff that goes into it. Redesigning with carbon fibers instead of, other things. And what they created was a really good hybrid that would never be economically viable to sell at a profit, because it would be like that Simpsons episode where Homer creates his car and it's stupid and it's like $150 billion to buy one. Completely pointless. But yeah, but they did it. They got it to market. Hybrid car has been a thing forever. Electric cars have been a thing forever. Let's take a look. I'm gonna have a dart pretty quick here, but let's take a quick look at the GM EV1, because Maria just The EV1 was very advanced for the era, around 150 horsepower and 200-kilometer range, which was huge for the 90s. GM had them all on lease in California, and customers loved them. At the end of the lease, GM took back all the cars and destroyed them all because they figured that making ICE SUVs and pickups was, etc., was more profitable. The fossil fuel lobby was probably behind it too. Yeah, that sounds absolutely the way the world is. This is the thing, is money is the thing that works. So if you're a car company and someone comes to you with like shit staggering quantities of money and they're like, you know what, just stop doing that thing. What you do is you go, thank you, I will. And you walk away with your giant shit staggering pile of money. And this happens in so many different ways. Like the number one person who supports anti-pipeline work is Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch? Am I wrong on that? The dude that owns all of the railways. Just gonna quickly fact check myself. Rupert Murdoch. No, rail. Oh, I can't spell. Jesus, railway. No, Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett. Is it Jimmy Buffett or is that the singer dude? Buffett Railway. Warren Buffett. Jimmy Buffett is the singer dude. I was wrong. I'm old and broken. But yeah, Warren Buffett. Massive funding for a lot of anti-pipeline groups. And why does he do that? Because Warren Buffett owns railways, and railways are a way to move large amounts of oil across a landlocked space. So pipelines are a direct threat to his bottom line. It's not like he's saying, let's not use oil and gas. He's saying, let's use oil and gas and me get rich, even richer. Even though pipelines tend to be far less bad for the world in terms of like exploding and things than, say, railway cars, which have a nasty habit of derailing. Interestingly enough, like, that's a thing. And was the Quebec town that like burnt to the ground because a railway derailment happened and like just poured fuel all over their town and then destroyed it. This is not I wouldn't say it's common, like every 20 minutes or something, but it happens. Comparatively, pipelines, very safe. Not good. I'm not a big fan of this. You watched a video on that? Yeah, and so Buffett has this like fiscal connection to rail systems. And rail systems are no joy for the environment. They're using lubricants, they're using greases, they're using all kinds of they're polluters. Fine. But he doesn't have an interest in fixing the world. He just has an interest in continuing to make money, as do the oil companies, as do the whoever. So yeah, the idea that the oil industry would just go to GM and be like, fuck no, brother, you're not doing it. And GM would be like, you got us, we'll stop. That is not a surprise. This is not conspiratorial thinking. This is just like living in the world. And it's freakishly sad to me that this is the world we're in. So this is why we need these big state-sponsored projects. I firmly believe that we will not address things like climate change unless those are the level of things that are where the decisions are coming from and the funding is coming from. We can't wait for businesses who don't give a fuck, because it's not profitable for them. Even if they found a way to make it profitable, the transition, the cost of change, the cost of retraining, all of that stuff is money they're not going to spend. So they won't. And it's a series of problems, right? So carbon capture is a great way to sort of prolong the inevitable. But there's a million other things that are involved. One of the big ones is we're not going to have oil forever. At some point, we will have to make a shift. And you would go, oh, well, wouldn't a business want to be like on the ground floor of that, to be able to go, hey, I'm going to invest money and I'm going to create a alternative energy company, and it's going to be like the thing that we move to, and I will be a huge alternative energy tycoon after I'm done being a huge oil tycoon. You would think. But that guy probably, that runs that company probably doesn't care. He's probably not going to live long enough. He's probably happy to suckle on Mother Nature's toxic teat until he's done. Because what is the benefit of his investing a giant sum of money to him directly? You can argue, well, what about his children and the world that they're going to inherit? But he probably doesn't give a fuck about his children. Or at least he doesn't give enough of a fuck about his children, right? This is the world that we live in. It's Christmas Eve and I'm all full of the happy Holy Spirit. Holy shit. All right, I'm going to take a pause and go do the thing that I do in the greater outside world. When I get back, we're going to talk some more about some more stuff. It'll be good. It'll be rad AF. So, and I'm going to leave you. Oh, wait, before I go, this is one of the things I found underwhelming about Tesla, even before Elon showed how much of an asset he was. He was just making toys for the upper middle class and couldn't make a profitable product for the middle classes, which is the bare minimum to make a small impact. Yeah, I was really interested when Cybertruck was the thing that they were talking about and how it was going to be available for like what would be, I think, a comparable amount of investment that someone who is a middle class person could buy a car for. And I was like, that's the thing that has to be different here, right? It has to be readily accessible, because it turns out that rich people aren't the ones who are doing a lot of the driving, right? Yeah, they do driving, but most people who are part of the driving aspect of this problem are doing so to get to and from work because they don't really have an option, or they don't, the option isn't worth exploring. They need to be able to have readily available access to a reasonable solution. Otherwise, the problem just continues. And that's a thing. I'm going to play some of my music now while I go outside and do the thing I do. This particular song is called Non-Monogamous Rhythms because it is stupid. It is only a polyrhythm. And it is only a polyrhythm because I am an asshole. The other day I was thinking about cool polyrhythm things, and I was like, what if I wrote a song that was like Muzak, and the drums were on a 11/4 timeline, the guitar was on a 5/4 timeline, and the bass was on a 4/4 timeline, so that they immediately are in sync for the first 4 beats, and then they drift, and they continue to drift and change, and they wiggle back and forth, but eventually, after 220 bars, they come back together for one 4 beat thing. Isn't that hilarious? So I made it. It doesn't involve any goodness or bringing anything positive to the world, but yes, I am a madman. This was literally just like a thought experiment that I could do, and I was like, I can make other people suffer too. So suffer you will. Oh, this is the start right here. You know what? To do it properly, let's start it at the beginning. Count along if you want. I will return shortly. Okay, I'm back. I will stop the horrible music, and I won't do that to you again today. What a thing. What a thing to do. I am a jerk. That is literally just cruelty. It's interesting from a like musical perspective. Pardon me, because like I can play the individual bits. So if I just play the drums, 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1. So that's an 11, very very simple bass and rim shot 11 pattern. And the guitar is this really boring 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. So it's just intense. I love that it throws in like finger squeaks. And then the bass is just a 4/4. Do do do. 1 2 3 4 3 2 3 4. I don't know why I said 3. It was supposed to be 2. But yeah, those three things, all very simple, but they don't go together at all, and it makes this weird dissonance. I lost it and then had to try to catch my count again. Oh, you were actually trying to count that? You poor bastard, Nate. That's terrible. I am Canadian. Merry Xmas to you, my friend. May Jesus suffer for your sins. So, sin lots. That was definitely cruel of me. All right, so I'm going to talk about a thing. I watched a debate the other day, as I often do. And this one was, I think the person's name was Nominal Naomi, taking on Andrew W., better known by some as Big Papa Fascist, who is not a fascist, but is definitely a right-leaning conservative and a bit of a dink sometimes, whatever. We can all be dinks sometimes. But they had this debate, and it was about the transes. And I believe, if I understand correctly, I believe that Nominal Naomi, or whomever their name was, I believe that they were a trans person. Jesus is dead. Yes, he is, but he is risen in my heart. Just kidding, he's dead, if ever he was even real. So they had this conversation. It was an interesting debate, simply because Nominal Naomi was not very good on the debate. Obviously in the supportive to trans rights side. And Andrew, who is a fairly decent debater, but not among the greatest in the world, but was able to really dominate and really control the narrative in ways that Naomi was not prepared for and was not able to sort of react well to. And there were a lot of things that came up in the debate that I was like, oh, the answer is obvious. Why are we not doing this? So rather than yelling at my computer impotently, I'm going to sit here and stream and yell at my computer impotently about it. So the first big thing was the whole, like, why should a Christian be expected to respect trans pronouns when they consider it to be a lie? Andrew's argument was essentially that the thing that people who are trans advocates typically will cite in this conversation is the improvement to the stats around the suicidality of trans people, and that giving them this affirmation is extremely important in lowering the likelihood of suicide, which I think is a very good thing. So he would reduce that down to, like, it makes trans people feel good, correct? And then Naomi would say, well, yes. And that is sort of translated into a lower risk of suicidality. And he would go, oh, so it's just feelings. What about the feelings of the Christian folk who are being forced to lie, which is against their religion? And they're being forced to participate in this lie. What about their feelings? What about their suicidality? We don't have studies on that, which is stupid. I'm fairly certain that should we ever find a way to study the suicidality of Christians when comparing whether or not they are suicidal by choosing to misgender people or otherwise, I don't think we will see a statistically significant difference. But the argument, Naomi had no real answer for. I'm gonna make a statement here. Reasons to support trans people's pronouns. It's the decent human thing to do. Like, that's it. It doesn't hurt you. And in terms of this, like, well, should Christians be forced to lie? First off, it's not a lie. You're not lying to someone. You're using a word to refer to them. If someone legally changes their name, if I was to go, I am no longer Big Ugly Jim, I am now Big Ugly Roy, that isn't a lie. I'm not making you lie by calling me Roy. I'm just asking you to call me by a name that I prefer, which I do not prefer Roy, and I would not change my name to Big Ugly Roy. That seems silly. Yeah, there is no harm. But should Christians be forced to lie? Let's just say that they actually did feel that this was a lie being forced on them. Okay. First off, newsflash, people lie all the time, even Christians. I'll give you an example. It's holiday party season. You go to the holiday party, your boss walks up to your table and says, hey, Johnson, great work on the campaign this year. I really feel like you did some hard work. And you go, thank you, sir. You're a visionary leader, and I genuinely took a lot of inspiration from you. Most likely, you're lying. Most likely, you're lying because your boss is probably a fucking idiot, just like every boss on earth. And you feel that you're the reason the company's staying afloat, and that the work that you did he'll never fully grasp because you're a special little snowflake in God's palace of ice mysteries. And he just doesn't see that. But you can't say to him, you know what, sir, all that work I put in, fuck you. You took me away from my family for the months at a time where I could have been spending quality time with my kids. You made ridiculous purchases in your personal life during this time where I had to go without. Fuck your face. Fuck your capitalist bullshit. I quit. You can't say that because it's not going to work out for you. So you lie. And everybody does this all the time. When your wife says, do these jeans make me look fat? And you go, of course not. But they do. You're lying. You're fine with lying in these situations. But someone says, hey, I prefer different pronouns. And you go, well, you're making me lie. That's intellectual cowardice. It's just stupid. And it's an example of how the Ten Commandments are ethically just piss poor. What would you rather have? Somebody quote unquote lie in a way that hurts nobody, or tell the truth in a way that intentionally hurts people for no real benefit, right? There's times where telling the truth, and a truth that will hurt somebody, is very beneficial. But a lot of the times, telling the truth when it will hurt them, and there's no real benefit, you're just being a dink. So we don't do that. We're a social species, and we know that social relationships are important. So, like, you can go, oh, well, I'm being expected to participate in a lie, and I'm not going to. But what you're choosing to do is just be an asshole for the purposes of being an asshole. And I get that, but own it. Just be like, it turns out I'm a horrible person, and you asked me to respect a very simple thing. I'm not going to, because I don't have to. There's no rule that says I have to be decent to you, and I'm just not gonna, because I think you're bad. Fine. I would be okay with people having that conversation. Problem is, there's not a in good faith with you. They're showing why to the peeps every time. They don't care what you're saying or if you're catching them out. I'm not sure I understand what that. I agree. Like, it's simply, this is performative. It is people who are choosing to be cruel with the caveat of, well, I'm only being honest, right? And that's called being an asshole, pure and simple. In a very, very simple way, if your wife says to you, does this pair of jeans make my ass look fat? And you go, actually, the reason your ass looks fat is because you're disgusting, and I think that you have really let us down in our marriage. I was primarily attracted to you for your physical beauty, and you have let that slide, and now I'm thinking about divorce. That might be true, but you're an asshole for saying it. They aren't arguing with you, they're speaking to their people. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right? And that's why these debates interest me, because I'm curious to see where, like, there are debaters who will punch sufficient holes in a conversation to that even the listeners that are expecting to agree will go, you know what, he's right. That's an interesting thing, and that's what I enjoy about a good debater. But if it's a not so good debater, it just looks like, well, this guy won the debate, ipso facto is correct, which is a non-starter. Those are not the same thing. They love to ask the question, well, define woman. Okay, that's a stupid gotcha. Because a definition of woman is going to have a myriad of possible reasons, because language isn't quite as fixed as this is what woman is, this is what dog is, this is what whatever is. Religious wrong, not right. Yeah, absolutely. They're really good at the wrong part. That's not how words do, right? Words are intended as tools in a conversation. And they have different ways of extending their meanings. There's the denotative and the connotative. So if someone asks me, define a woman, well, that's an impossible thing to do, because you're not giving me enough context to know how I'm defining a woman. Am I defining a woman in a purely biological sense? Am I defining a woman in a purely gender-specific sense? Am I defining a woman in some other sociologically constructed, scenario? All of these are valid. If we're talking about, like, the whole gender question and the are trans women question, are trans men question, then my definition of what is a woman would be, a woman is someone who identifies with the majority of the cultural norms that are associated with what we would consider womanhood, and you can list off a bunch of them, and that this is how they view themselves. Whether other people do or not is inconsequential. That is how they identify. Hunter Avallone often talks about, I can identify as a fan of a sports team. I live in Calgary, so I can identify as a Calgary Flames fan. Does that mean that I fit the narrative of every single person who is a Calgary Flames fan? Of course not. But my sense of myself is associated with being a Calgary Flames fan. Ergo, I am a Calgary Flames fan. And someone can come along and purity test and gatekeep and be like, oh yeah? What number was Willie Plett when he transferred from the Atlanta Flames in the original inception of the Calgary Flames? What was his number? And I go, I don't know, 7? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure it wasn't 7. And then they can go, well, you are not a Flames fan. And that's stupid, because I'm still a Flames fan, whether I meet all of the ridiculous criteria or not. Gender is the same, because gender is a social construct. And I'm speaking to the choir. I know my peoples all have the same opinion, but, like, these are the answers that the argument really falters, right? When that person that was being nominated for the Supreme Court was up. Was it Supreme Court? I don't recall now. And they did the whole, like, what is a woman? Well, you're supposed to be a lawyer and you can't even identify what a woman is. That was stupid. It was a complete waste of time, and it was an unreasonable question to put to a person who was trying to be a judge. Is there a legal reason why there has to be a legal definition of woman? I don't think there is. It certainly hasn't been. It doesn't change anything if we look at people who are assigned male at birth, for example, who identify as women and whose gender is woman, because gender is a social construct. Then okay, how does that affect the legal process against them? It shouldn't. And they always get hung up, and in this debate, sure enough, they did. They got hung up on like the concept of gender as a social construct versus biological sex, which is a physical construct. Hey, Temple Music Academy. That's my buddy DJ. Everyone who is on here should give DJ a follow. He's a rad human being. Plays in a ridiculously good band called Without Mercy. And I have seen many of his live streams, typically Monday nights. Didn't know I was following you. I wasn't following you. What the hell? Yeah, I blame you. I blame you entirely. But here I am. Don't subscribe to me, anyone that's in the channel. I am technically in the affiliate program, but don't subscribe to me because why? I don't need your money. I'm doing this for funsies. I'm probably going to drop out of the affiliate program, honestly, because it literally is like, why am I doing this? I'm not getting ad revenue. It doesn't make sense. What the fuck? DJ, you may very well know No Hope for the Nate or know of. I'm sure the two of you would have many things in common. No Hope for the Nate is from the band No Hope for the Lost. Why is my brain stopping? And a bunch of other bands. Fantastic human being. And runs the Local Music Smokeout Canada edition. Where they go through watching videos of local music bands and just listening also, and then there's a voting process and it's a whole fun thing. So everyone check out everyone. But yeah, so the argument of biological sex versus gender, and gender is an identification thing and only an identification thing in terms of I feel like I'm a dude, ergo I'm a dude. And if I feel like I'm a woman and it's a genuine, like this is how I identify, then that is my gender as far as I'm concerned. So gender, can you change biological sex? Sort of, right? You can't change the DNA makeup of a person, but you can do some, very impressive cosmetic surgeries that would result in physical changes to a person to more conform with their gender identity. Can you change a gender? Well, not with surgeries, but if a person says I am, this is how I identify, and gender is simply their identification, then yes, it can change. And it can be fluid, and it can be non-binary, and it can be all kinds of stuff, and it doesn't fucking matter. Biggest changes are hormonal. Yes, absolutely. The hormonal changes essentially are, if I understand, and I do not pretend to be an expert, but if I understand correctly, the hormonal changes are ones that go a great deal of the distance to promoting those physical and biochemical changes that make a person feel more aligned to physically to the gender identity that they hold, which I think is just badass that we as a species can figure that shit out and make it available. The challenge then becomes this idea that hospitals are turning babies into other genders than they were and all this kind of stuff. Brains work differently. Would they question ADHD or autism or genius labels identity? Yeah, exactly, right? Everyone's brain is a biomechanical computer that is not perfect and that has wrinkles and folds of fuckery, sort of built into it. That's cool. We can do that. We can all have different ways of viewing and interacting with the world. Nothing wrong with that. And the assumption that I'm right about how I see myself, so therefore I'm right about how you see yourself, is a pretty dumb distinction. It's not just you get physical changes very quickly with the hormones or just blockers. Yeah, totally. I don't mean that it's like, it rewires your brain to feel better. I mean, like your body transitions in certain aspects that could affect things like your voice. It can affect your breasts, your physical genitalia, your body shape, the way in which you do things like putting on weight or muscle. Like there's all sorts of stuff that hormones are super awesome at, and it's part of why we're so bad at the whole concept of the biological sex thing, because it's really easy to go, biological sex is you are either XX or XY. But there's a million other, also face, absolutely. The face can be massively changed by just simply by exposure to different hormones. But the XXXY thing is great on, as a very simplistic way of looking at things. But there's a myriad of people who have chromosomes that don't line up with that. B, we don't really believe that the X and Y chromosome are the ipso facto of genetic expression for gender. We don't know what it is, and we know these are strongly correlative. But we also know that the hormones that are triggered in the development can massively change the outcome of gender, so that you're looking at a developing embryo that goes through various changes that don't align with those X and Y chromosomes. It's very fascinating. And at the end of the day, what we do as a society, what we do as people, is when we see someone, we go, this is the box I assume that they are in. It's pretty common for me to see another human being, and my brain goes, this is a boy or this is a girl. And I can't know their biology, right? Using the example of Blair White, who is a trans woman, a horrible, horrible human being, but a trans woman, and is easily, like, there's no way that people can be like, oh, I would know. I'll bring up, for those that may not have seen before, let's bring up a picture of Blair. Again, terrible person. Do not do the things to support Blair, because Blair is genuinely terrible. But let's go to images. Right? This is Blair right here. Fuck, I just can't make a single picture show up, can I? Okay, don't think the IMDb is gonna help. I'm gonna have to, like, open image in new tab. That'll work. Right, so this is Blair White. If I, a reasonable human being, was walking down the street and I saw Blair White, there is no way that I'd be like, wait a tick, something is chromosomally off here. I feel like that is not a biological woman. I would have no reason to suspect that Blair is anything but a woman. And because, in my opinion, Blair is a woman. Even though Blair is also an awful person. I can't stress that enough. I do not like Blair White. But we are looking at a person and we go, oh, okay, these are the words I would use for them. Because that's all pronouns are. Pronouns are a short form of using someone's proper nouns. So rather than being in a world where I go, I, Jim, went to Jim's house for eating Jim's food, or, like, it's clumsy. Whereas if I was to say, I went to Jim's house and ate his food, it's more comfortable, right? That's all pronouns do, is they give us a short form of a proper noun. And because of the way our society works, we have chosen to gender those pronouns so that we have she, her, he, his, etc. ad nauseum. The Blair White Project, that's not a movie I would watch. And what we're doing now as a society is we're saying maybe just leaping to assumptions about people is silly, and we can have them express to us what the pronouns that they want are. And then we go, hey, I will support that, and that's cool. You're good? Okay, cool. As, really a no harm, no foul kind of thing. Now, I get it. As an old-timey prick, it's not easy for me to make the switch in my brain. I feel like Zoomers and people in millennials and stuff, I feel like it is sort of intrinsically easier for them because they have grappled with the topic of gender a lot more than my generation ever did, right? When I was a kid, your gender was you're a boy or you're a girl. And we knew that there were people that didn't fit that, but we didn't understand them, and they were often portrayed as monsters and villains, i.e. James Gumb from Silence of the Lambs. And these were not the people in our universe, so it just wasn't the thing that we considered. But it is a thing. And more and more, as we have destigmatized the concept of being a trans person or being non-binary or gender fluid or any of the millions of things along the spectrum, people have just chilled the fuck out about it in the younger generations and been like, oh. So I guess the path of least resistance is for me to say, hey, what are your pronouns? And then in my brain I will go, that's Dave. Dave is a she, her. I will use she, her for Dave. And there's no harm, no foul. It's just literally a change in how we do it. My older brain struggles with that, and it's hard for me to keep those things intact simply because I think I've never needed to do that with my brain. And now that I am, I stumble sometimes. But it's a stumble. And, the people I'm communicating with don't see it as me being awful to them. They see it as me being, a human being who's learning and trying and all that kind of stuff. And away we go. Maybe we shouldn't assault or harass trans people. Maybe leave them the fuck alone. Would be a good answer, Certainly, if someone is doing a thing that you disagree with, you, as a human, have the right to be like, I disagree with that thing. What's weird is, as a society, we have kind of decided that maybe saying, I don't agree with that, I think that's weird, and I'm going to beat the shit out of that for being different. Those are two very different actions with very different ramifications. Seems a thing we could all learn from. Wish people would understand one of the main points of transphobia is to get the foot in the door to remove bodily autonomy for cis people. It's very connected. I definitely agree with that, and it's interesting how this is all coming to play at the same time as the abortion conversation and all of this stuff. At the end of the day, what they're in my opinion, their primary focus is to have a group to scapegoat and demonize and make war against. We're talking about a kind of Christian right nationalist viewpoint that is violent in nature, requires an enemy. The enemy has to be both strong and weak, and allows them to use populist language to attack that enemy. And they've recognized over the years that race is no longer a thing that they can use for that. Okay, so we'll move on. Now we'll hate the queers. Oh, but the queers, a lot of people are supportive of the queers. Okay, so we're gonna step away from the queers, kind of. But then we'll look at trans people or pedophiles or whatever. Not that I'm justifying pedophiles, nor am I comparing them to trans people, but they need that enemy. And the bigger that enemy is, the better it is for them, and the more they can whip people up. But yeah, it is very much associated with your body is not something that you get to control. It is something that not even the state, but the Jesus gets to control. Now, I watched that thing last week. We were watching that Jubilee video, and that one mom was like, my little daughter in her grade 6 class got asked her pronouns, and she was like, let me tell you something. Jesus didn't make no mistakes. Therefore, I'm a girl. Okay, you could have just said she, her, and you wouldn't have hurt anybody. No one would have been like, oh, I'm surprised by the she, herness of it all. It just would have been a thing that happened and then was done. And instead, what winds up happening is this child feels the need to sermonize and to talk about how Jesus created her. That's a different monster than what are your pronouns. If I say what are your pronouns and you say she, her, and you think in your head because Jesus is God, cool. Right on for you. But probably not the end of the conversation that needs to happen if you were to say that out loud, because it's shitty and mean. I tell this story all the time. My second child was in school, and enslavement is a fascist thing, absolutely. So my second child was in grade 1 or 2, and I've told the story on the stream before. I was sitting on my dad's knee, and they were talking about how great it was to be Jesus Christians, and being Jesus Christians based AF. And my dad's like, yeah, it's so good because we get to go to heaven. And my 6-ish-year-old child goes, what happens to people who don't believe? And he goes, well, we believe that they don't go to heaven. Now, my child at that age was smart enough to understand from the world around them that there's two answers. There's going to heaven or going to hell. And that child had a friend who was a Jewish girl, so does not accept the Lord Jesus Christ as her personal Lord and Savior. And this caused my child to be very upset for her friend, and went to school the next day and was like, little Mary or whatever the kid's name was, you have to, accept Jesus, because I don't want you to go to hell. Then you're going to burn in hell if you don't accept Jesus. This is a reasonable take for a 6-year-old kid who's been given that information. It's also anti-Semitic and awful and shitty, and resulted in a long conversation with the school. But my point is, what was my point? Fuck, I was going somewhere with that. I don't know. Thank fuck I'm pretty. Let's catch up on chat. But since there are so few, then by all means feel free to be the cowardly bully POS you are. Yeah, 100%, right? The fact that people feel tough by bullying people is gross and isn't very Christian, right? Did we forget the story of the Good Samaritan? It's kind of a biggie there in that Bible that these people clutch so, tightly. What was that story? Dude gets the shit kicked out of him walking down the street. Guy passes by, looks over, sees him, and is like, fuck you, dude. I'm busy. I got shit to do. I am not wasting my time stopping you from dying. Next guy comes along and is like, fuck you, dude. I don't like you, and I never liked you, and fuck your face, and continues walking. And then a Samaritan, who is a dog to these people, a terrible piece of shit from another foreign land, this garbage piece of shit walks up, sees another human being in pain, and is like, dude, let me help you. And takes him to his home and heals his wounds and gives him milk and cookies, and they do a little space jig, and everything is cool. And isn't this a great parable for how we should treat each other? How does that line up with anti-trans bullying? What part of being a Christian is making that person feel like shit intentionally, attacking them for their intrinsic characteristics that you don't agree with, and making their lives miserable, let alone the threat of violence, the threat of real world damage to that person? If we removed all of that and just focused on that one person in that one moment going, haha, I misgendered you because Jesus doesn't want me to lie. Okay, you're an asshole. And congratulations on being an asshole and doing all of the asshole things. Here's an interesting question. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to Google this in a second, but pronouns didn't exist in the original Bible, right? The concept of pronouns. I'm not going like, the Bible didn't have pronouns, so therefore pronouns aren't even real. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, like, the language at the time didn't use pronouns. We've adapted these over time for purposes of functionality in conversation, so that we have a short form version, so that instead of giving someone's name, I can say he, I can say she, I can say they, both singular and plural, and it's just an easy conversation. And because we're actually wired to understand these conversations, we just pick it up and we understand. So if I say, I went to Jeremy's house and ate his cookies, you're not going, wait, his? Which his is that? Is it Jeremy or somebody else you haven't even mentioned? Obviously, I ate Jeremy's cookies because Jeremy makes good fucking cookies and he's the subject of the sentence. Where the pronoun concept gets confusing is when you have multiple references in a sentence, where you have like a subject and object or multiple subjects, and then you use an individual pronoun and it's unclear. But like, the concept of pronouns didn't exist, if I'm not mistaken, in the original text of the Bible. So let's find out. Come back to our picture of Blair. Hello, Blair. Lovely, but just awful. Just awful. Okay, so we're going to jump to the old Googleizer, and we'll type in, were there pronouns in original Bible? Thou, thee, thine, thy, ye, you, or yours. Second person pronouns in 2 Bible translations. I don't even know what the fuck this is. It's not in English. Oh, it is in English. So in the King James Version, there are 8 different forms of personal pronouns for second person. Singular forms, thou, thee, thy, thine, and corresponding plural forms, ye, you, your, and yours. So those are all gender neutral pronouns, and they're also limited specifically to words about me, words about you. So I wouldn't have a word in the King James Version of the Bible that says words about her or words about him. And I don't believe in the original translation or original text that those existed. It's not an important point, but it's my point is that it's not like pronouns are some divine right of kings. They just came about in our use of language in conversation, and they evolved over time. And the concept of gendering things evolved in how we communicate. And was that right? Who knows? I don't know the answer of do you take all language and neutralize it so that we're only referring to people as comrade instead of sir or madam? It doesn't really fucking make a difference at all. And if it stands to, provide utility to respect people's differing pronouns, what's the fucking harm? So enslavement is a fascist thing. Take, for example, the Taliban. Enslavement of women is women in progress. LB and MGT will regret it, I hope. Lauren Boebert and Margarine Taylor Greene. Such brilliant leaders in this, the most important timeline. It always boggles my mind that we live in a world where those two get to have their ignorance just on blast all the time. I love that they hate each other. Like that really does warm my heart, because it's just an example of how hateful people hate each other. But it's just like, fucking, what the hell? What the whole world? Couldn't we have done better? I don't think Latin had he, she, it pronouns, but it was still a very gendered language. And I think like Aramaic and Sanskrit and stuff like those languages, again, I could be entirely wrong, but whether they are, gendered pronouns or not, and whether they existed at the time and are in that original translation, it's kind of not the point. The point is that pronouns are not like a core foundational element of language. Lots of languages existed that did not have pronouns, and then evolved them over time as just a sort of conversational shorthand. And the use of them is unimportant. The accuracy of them is important only in the sense of how people react to it. An example from my own life. I was doing work at a company that I used to work for, a big oil company made of the devil. And there was a particular developer that I was dealing with all day, and that developer refused. I was in charge of supporting this web application server. That developer was trying to deploy something to the server. They had broken their thing, and they were trying to get me to do the work to figure out what was wrong and fix it. And I don't have time in the day. I'm like, you have to fucking do this. And that particular developer was a woman. And I don't remember their name for the life of me, but we'll say that their initials were RG, just for purposes of doing this. And then another person that I work with on the same team messages me and goes, hey, RG just, sent me an email claiming that there's a problem with this. And I was like, yeah, RG's just trying to do an end around. I've told them the problem is in their code. They have to fix it. It's probably, one of these 3 things. But that's on them. They have to fix this. We can't fix it for them. Don't waste your time. And then half an hour later, another coworker messages me with the exact same issue from a different developer who also had the same, I think it was the same first name, but was a person of the opposite gender. And my short functioning brain just saw this and was like, oh, just tell her to fix the thing like I told her to. And I replied. And then that person forwarded my reply to the person that was asking this question, who was a man. And he saw me go, just tell her to do this. And his reaction wasn't to assume that I had in any way, whoops-a-doodled. He was certain that I was calling him a girl and that this was an insult to him, and he was livid and sent me just an angry fucking email. And immediately I read it. I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized what I did, and I called him, and I was like, hey, listen, I want to explain the situation. He's like, oh, I bet you do. And I was like, no, hang on. Like, I genuinely have nothing against you. It wasn't a slight on you. And here's how this happened. And I said it in very calming, soothing tones, and he was furious. And I was like, I get it. I said something that hurt your feelings, and it was not my intent to hurt your feelings. I am sorry that happened. But I hope that you can understand that there was no malice associated with this. That's all I'm trying to communicate. It was not a malicious attack. It was an accident, and the accident was mine. And he's like, well, we'll see. And I immediately contacted my boss and was like, hey, listen, you might be getting a complaint about me. If that's the case, like, I own this. This is what has transpired thus far. Here are the associated emails. This is on me, whatever happens. And it never ended up going anywhere, and that person began eventually to refer to me like I was not a giant piece of shit, and that was pleasant. But yeah, like, this was totally unimportant. The use of the wrong pronoun was in no way malicious, caused this person grievous frustration. And I guarantee you, this person is the kind of person who would be like, I'm not participating in the lie. I'm going to use the pronouns that Jesus assigned to you at birth. Because that guy was an asshole. Are there gender-neutral pronouns in French or Spanish? There are, actually. It's not very common. And again, I'm not a fucking expert. But se, S-E, is, you can use it as like a they, which can be singular or plural. And I'm sure there's probably plenty of other examples of that. But primarily, Spanish is gendered language. And in the dumb ways that language happens to get gendered, right? So, for example, a bookstore. Now, a bookstore, biologically, does not possess an XY chromosome or an XX chromosome. Bookstores in no way are things that have penises or vaginas. Someone at some point said, oh, well, it's libreria, which is a feminine. So you would say la libreria as a feminine as opposed to el librerio, which would be the masculine. There's nothing feminine or masculine about a fucking bookstore. Unless it's like a bookstore that specifically sells books for women or men. But if you had a bookstore that only sold books for men, you would still refer to it in the female gender. Why? Because that's what they have done. Is it correct? No, because there is no gender associated with a bookstore. It is stupid, but that's just how the shorthanding works. So away we go. Depends who you're asking. For French, there's an increasing acceptance of a neutral third-person pronoun, but the French Academy, fuck them, still does not recognize it. Or fuck them, yeah. And that's the thing, is, right, now we're in a place where people are asking the question, like, why do we have gendered language? What is the value that it brings to us? Can we fix it? And a lot of, like, the gatekeepers of that world will be like, well, we could theoretically. And yet, what does it speak of the grander element of the language on its own? In and they'll just pontificate and shit. And I don't think it's because they're being shitty. It's because they're so hung up on the smell of their own farts that they don't know how to, question their things. Also, people knew about feminizing substances for thousands of years. Oh, and orchidectomies, very simple medical procedure, very impressive result. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this, none of this is new. We have made massive steps in terms of understanding in the last bunch of years, understanding the mechanics behind gender expression as a physical thing. And we've come a long way in terms of understanding how to address the psychology behind people who are trans. But none of this is new. I remember being forced to watch Yentl as a young man in language arts class in grade 9 or 8. And Yentl is the story of Barbara Streisand is a woman, and it's been for fucking ever. So please ignore the fact that I will guarantee get the story wrong. Barbara Streisand was a cis woman who wanted to be able to, know things that were not allowed for young Jewish women to know. So she cut off all her hair and presented herself as a man and joined a male school and, the indignity of it all. And there's love and there's things and there's problems and all this kind of shit. This isn't a new concept. What's new is foaming at the mouth over the fact that this exists. And that's probably not okay. The French Academy is a reactionary institute. I have no idea about the French Academy. So, if I say dumb things, it's because I'm legit dumb on the subject. It was established by the royals in the 17th century, abolished during the First Republic in the early 1790s, then reestablished by Napoleon. It's an invitation thing, no elections, etc. Of course it is. And of course it would be held, the people in charge would be the people who are in charge. That's okay, it's normal to use non-French speakers not knowable. Yeah, exactly. My ability with French extends to put it in the refrigerator and cornflakes, flocons de maize. I can speak with a French-sounding voice, but I am not French. And as a we all got French classes here in Western Canada, but the school that I transferred to, in the school that I had grown up in, and it was across the street from my parents' house, they started French classes in grade, I think it was 5 or 6. And in grade 5, I switched to a different school that was ironically a Christian school, but a public Christian school, very much like the charter school system that we currently have. There was a program called Logos that was public schools, but they were religious in nature. Non-Catholic religious in nature. So I got the opportunity to go to the school. I went to it, and they had been teaching in their curriculum, had been teaching French since day one. So I come in, and I'm trying to comment allez-vous? And they're all, talking about, the important thing about the Poseidon adventure is the way all of the fish swam. It was beautiful. And I'm like, okay. It was terrible. So I no fuck all for French, which I think is very Alberta of me. But for reasons, I decided that when I wanted to learn a new language, I decided I would use Spanish because I could see myself one day living either in Spain or in a Spanish speaking place in South America. Either way, I would be pretty okay with it. The Spanish Riviera, that'd be a pretty alright thing. And, French never really was a big motivator for me. I would imagine one day I will learn French just for the sake of learning it because it is a cool language, and I do have friends that are French speaking as well, and it's cool to have those moments. Like when I worked for the National Energy Board, it was people had moved there from Ontario or from Ottawa. The NAB was moved from Ottawa to Alberta. And in Ottawa, there was a great deal of people who was in Hull, that lived in Hull, Quebec, and traveled into Ottawa to work for the NEB. So there's a very large French-speaking population there. And when they moved out to Alberta, many of them came with. So they were very bilingual. And you would get on an elevator, and people knew who spoke French and who didn't, because the elevator doors would open, and they're in the middle of, so the other day I looked at Jenny, and I was... Door opens and they're like, and you knew they're just they're using language as a way for you to not know what the fuck they're talking about, which is super okay and cool. But I always kind of wanted to not let on that I knew French, but knew French. That would be very cool. I never took French in Calgary. Moved to Medicine Hat in the 4th grade and had to take it until the end of the 6th grade. The moment I was given the option to drop it, I did. I hated French class because I felt so out of my depth, and I felt stupider than all the other kids who'd had years of it. I took German in high school, and I was a terrible student in high school. I was legitimately the shitty kid who undiagnosed ADHD, can't focus, can't get his homework done, all that stuff. I passed German 10 and then was like, I never need to do this again. Partly because I genuinely disliked my teachers, but also partly because learning a language ain't easy, and doing it very half-assed, not awesome. Yeah, I was a bad student. What can I say? But yeah, the whole debate was really weak, and there was one point where like a genuine fuck up happened, in my opinion, and that is Naomi was asked the question, "Do you respect Steven Crowder's pronouns?" When Steven Crowder says, "I am a girl. I identify as a girl genuinely and completely, so you have to use she, her around me, or you're misgendering me." Is that something you have to respect? And that is where the real tricky question comes in. If someone disingenuously insists on you giving them the wrong pronouns, are they being an asshole? And yeah, they're being an asshole. And I think the best thing you can do is support them in their assholery by using the pronouns that they've claimed that they identify with, and use them after the joke is over, right? So Steven Crowder, she has her little program, she does her little thing, and you can refer to her in such a fashion. And when Steven Crowder finds out about it, she will be very upset. And you say, I'm respecting the choices you make. That's why I'm happy to refer to Ted Cruz as, if I was to go to his house, I would, instead of saying his house, I would say, I am going to go to Kiss My Ass's house, because that was his preferred pronoun. He said it very loudly. His preferred pronoun is kiss my ass, so I will support you in this, Mr. Cruz. And if Steven Crowder says to me, "Oh, well, my pronouns are actually he, him," I would say, "Oh, okay, well then I will make the adjustment. However, that means you're a disingenuous assfuck, because you made a big deal out of this." Brave4 is now following. Hello, Brave4. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well. Ted prefers Trump's cuck or cock, because either is valid. But yeah, Ted Cruz is that perfect example of just being the worst. Like actively waking up in the morning and being like, how can I be shittier today? I feel like it's in me. It's in me to give the shittiness. I don't know how the Boberts and the Cruzes and the DeSantises and stuff, I legitimately don't know how they can wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and be like, I like me. And they do. Like, obviously, Lauren Boebert loves herself. Marjorie Taylor Greene loves herself. But these people are horrible and, like, legitimately, genuinely broken monsters. And I'm sure that they know how awful they are. And they just don't care. Ted Cruz liked porn on Maine on a September 11th once. Yes, I remember that. He was Ted Cruz, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was like incest porn or something like that. Like stepsister or whatever. I could be 100% wrong on that. But, and then he was like, "Oh yes, someone using my account, one of my staffers is the one who did that." Yeah, your staffers are accidentally forgetting they're signed in as Ted fucking Cruz and liking shit. Sure, buddy. What are we discussing here? Hope everyone here is doing great. At this point, I think we're doing good. We're probably going to lapse into some karaoke in a little bit, fairly shortly. We have been discussing a debate that I witnessed between Andrew W. and Naomi about should people respect trans people, of which my answer is, yeah, absolutely. We should respect pronouns. We should be, decent human beings. And talking about some of the things that were in the debate, the sort of counterpoints and why I felt that they were not very good. So that's what we've been talking about. And before that, we read a chunk of Bible, which was fun. I'm not a Christian, but we read the story of Samson's riddle and his marriage and the subsequent temper tantrum and stuff, and sort of giggled about that. So that's what you're in for if you're hanging out here in the stream. And hopefully you enjoy, and hopefully feel free to engage in conversation. When we do get to karaoke, it will be probably sometimes really good, probably sometimes really awful. And when it's you're certainly welcome to make suggestions for songs that I would sing in the old chat box. Yeah, essentially, I think I've covered all the things I was going to say about the debate. At the end of the day, respect is free, right? We can choose to be intentionally aggressive, and we can choose to be as mean-spirited as possible, but it's not going to serve us well. As part of a social species, our benefit is in establishing connections and societies that are strong and healthy and good. Is trans people a real problem in America? I don't live in America. I live in Canada, and trans people isn't a real problem anywhere because they're just people doing their lives. What the problem is that in America right now, and also here in Canada, a lot of people are very aggressively attacking, both by words, by legislation, etc., trans people, and it's kind of a gross, disgusting thing. Here in my hometown, apparently a group of Nazi skinheads showed up at a drag show and were met with a force of about 100 and some not-so-Nazi angry people who were there to counter-protest them, and they decided it would be best to leave. But this is a thing that's more and more happening because of the narrative around the groomer argument and the implication that trans people are in some way being awful to the world by expecting the world to listen and hear them and respect them. And that's, to me, that's just silly shit to if people want to view themselves in a way that doesn't align with how I see it, okay, then do that, and I'll do my best to respect that, because I am not the boss of the world. Yeah. All right, I am going to take a pause. I will be back in a couple of seconds. I'll play different music this time because the Drive You Insane madness was cruel of me. If you were not here, I wrote a song a couple days ago that is entirely Muzak. The drums are in 11/4 time, the guitar is in 5/4 time, and the bass is in 4/4 time. So when you hit play, it takes 1 minute and 51 seconds for them to get back in line. It's super obnoxious, and I got a good giggle out of that. Instead, we'll play Faster Kitty Fuck, which is more of my silly Muzak, but is a little bit more listenable-ish, and it's in 9/4 time. And I will be right back. Debates are often excuses to be an asshole these days. More often than not, I feel like that is a thing. The argument of like blood sports debates are they can be enjoyable, but you know that this is two people trying to out asshole each other, and that's a very valid thing. Anyways, I shall return in just a moment. Stick around. terrible music and get the thing off my face, and we can do stuff. What did I miss while I was gone? Gross. Muzak hurts. Yes, it does. It's terrible. Most debates are just headaches nowadays. I actually agree with that. I do like a good debate, but so often they're bad. They're people just attacking one another and trying to win like the simple gotchas and stuff. A good debate, when you have people who know how to have a conversation and who know how to speak not just to the person but to their argument, and may even, you know, affect some of the thoughts of the people that are watching the debate. That's cool shit. I'm a fan of that. What I don't like is when debates are like, you know, the blood sports where like, oh yeah, well, if you're so smart, define woman or whatever. Like, that's just a gotcha. It's an empty bullshit thing. And there's no interest or value. Most debates, I think, fall into that. My hope is that people who do debates, you know, get better at them and learn how to do them more effectively to communicate what the thoughts in their head are. Because I enjoy that kind of conversation. Yelling and attacking and making points politically ain't debate. Yeah, it is not. It is just baby tantrums all over again. You might as well be Samson. And who wants to be Samson? Nobody. But that said, I enjoy them. Take your hot take and shove it. Yeah. Except when it's my hot take, in which case, fucking yeah. It's the same side often describes man as a series of performative social acts without realizing. Oh, yeah, absolutely, right? I love those memes that are like, you know, if you have a man who doesn't know what this is, you might just have a girlfriend. And it's like, so I, as a man, I don't own a car. I have never owned a car. I don't even have a driver's license. I am finally in a place where I have a valid learner's permit and will eventually buy a car. But most of those car part things and fixing car things, I don't know what they are. Am I not a man now? No es muy macho? I feel like that's stupid. I feel like a lot of the things that we ascribe, the social, performative social acts that we ascribe to manness are not in line with who I am. But that does not mean that I am not of the gender male, or male is the sex, of the gender man, right? It doesn't fucking change the fact that I am a man. I identify as a man, and I don't care if someone decides that I don't, you know, have enough of the little check boxes to prove that I'm a man. There's plenty of check boxes that do, and the most important one is that's how I see myself, and that's okay. Except present company, of course. The same side often does yeah. Oh, you were talking about the hot takes. Of course, yes. My hot takes, spicy. I have done a couple of debates, and I don't think I did great in the debates, but I had some fun moments. I remember at one point referring to, they were talking about, it was a bad debate for me to be on. It was right after Roe v. Wade happened, and I was scheduled to do a debate, but I didn't have a topic that was given to me. It was a hippy-dippy thing, and like the day of the debate, they were like, yeah, we're going to talk about Roe versus Wade's overturning. And I was like, well, cool. As a not American citizen, I don't know shit about constitutional law. I know, you know, like the bare bones basics, but I can't argue when we're going, well, is the 11th Amendment going to supersede the 14th Amendment? I don't fucking know. So I wasn't particularly involved in the debate because a lot of it was the specifics that I just don't have access to. But at one point, there was a guy who was, you know, he's a constitutional originalist, which is hilarious. And I was like, I personally prefer the King James version of the Constitution, which was an awesome little fuck you, because the Constitution originalists don't know what the original meaning of the Constitution was. They just come up with what they feel like. It'd be fun to see the right trying to rebrand the puny Tesla Model 3 as the principle of masculinity for the rest of this decade. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that's so much fun, is anytime when, like, you know, this is how men are. God damn it, this is how men are. Men drive Ford trucks or whatever. And then all of a sudden, men start not doing that thing and they do other things, and they have to be like, and also, you know, Priuses, which are super manly. I would Prius the shit out of a cow, you know? Fuck off. Just get over it. They're, much like the bookstore, a Prius is not masculine or feminine. It is a car without any kind of vagina or penis, and its purpose is not to make babies. That's another one of the common anti-trans arguments, where they start talking about where's the line, what's the how do you decide where a marriage can take place. This is more about queer stuff than trans stuff, but where's the line that how can you decide what's a valid marriage? And people will go, the purpose of marriage is to procreate. No, that's a purpose of marriage, which is stupid, because you can procreate without being married, as happens quite a bit. But you can also be married to someone who is incapable of procreating. You can be married to someone, and the best example I could give is if you're gonna do like the ridiculous whataboutism, what if there was a person who was in all aspects male? They were socially raised male. They have a penis. They have scrotum. They have inside the scrotum 2 little ball-shaped things, and then you were to find out that those 2 little ball things were actually ovaries, and different than having a pair of testes. They're definitely female organs, but that was just how their body was. Would they be forced to marry as a woman, or would they be forced? Like, this is all stupid. And at the end of the day, the real answer is, I don't, these people, not me, these people say, I don't want gay marriage because it makes me feel uncomfortable that we're allowing people to do things. And I feel like my religion is special, and therefore that's cool. The best debate I saw on this topic recently, or at least the best point in a debate, someone was like, would you affirm, because you're talking about Christian definitions, would you affirm a Muslim wedding? And the person answered honestly and was like, I am a Christian nationalist. I would, if I was the boss of the world, no, I would not support those, because a marriage is before God, i.e. the Christian God, and anything else is not. And I was like, at least he's fucking honest. That's amazing. I personally think everything about that take is garbage, but at least he's honest in his point. Rather than being like, well, if you can't, have male gametes and female gametes, then that's not a valid marriage, because the purpose of marriage is reproduction. No, it's not. I got married. I ended up reproducing several times during that process, but that was not why I got married. Be a man, toxic much. And that's the thing, like, when people talk about toxic masculinity, they don't understand that what we're talking about is certain aspects of these social acts that are associated with maleness are negative, both towards the individual male and towards society as a whole. Those are the things that are toxic masculinity. It's not that all masculinity is toxic. In the same regard, there is toxic femininity. There are aspects of these social acts of being, of womanhood that we ascribe that are toxic to the individual or to society as a whole. It's not a big thing. We probably don't need to get all bunged up about it. Any car is a good car as long as it takes you to point B. That's the whole point, right? The purpose of a car is not to be an extension of the penis or an extension of the vagina. It is to move you and possibly others from one space to another, and that's the whole point of car. That's what makes car. And there are other things that do that too, and they're all okay and valid. You could use motorcycle, although if you lived in Canada this time of year, it'd be a poor choice because you would die in a fiery crash, though the fire would feel nice for at least a few minutes. Be a human, fuck be a man. I ate that when I didn't know any better. Yeah, like we were all raised with this, this social pressure to this is what men do and this is how you can be a man. And that's why when I was a kid, gay kids were the ostracized group because they didn't do the be a man things. They were different. They wanted to be, different, and we couldn't wrap our heads around that. But then we grew up and we figured out that we were fucking idiots and that, being a man is an empty set of statements and also very harmful. It's the end goal, divide and conquer. Yeah, divide and conquer is always the end goal, right? If you don't have an enemy, then you can't win a war. And that's what this is all about. All this culture war shit, it's not about making the world a better place. It's about making sure that your personal take on how the world ought to be is respected, and anyone who steps outside of that gets pooped on. That's it. All right, we're gonna do some karaoke. I've babbled a lot. It's time. Oh, before I do, I'm just gonna quickly say, I haven't used this yet, but when I say something stupid next time, I'm gonna do this. Because I can. Because that's awesome. Because Tucker Carlson is a sandwich made entirely of mayonnaise and rage. All right. Bring open the thing. Switch to the right tab. I only have a couple of songs that I had previously identified as being songs that I would do. So please, by all means, feel free to throw in requests. And if I don't know the song, I'll probably just pretend like I know it and fail miserably at it, which can be fun. And if I don't get requests, I'll just come up with my own songs to sing, and you'll have to suffer with that. But either way, we're going to do some weekly humiliations. Again, just to make sure it's said, I am technically an affiliate on Twitch, which means theoretically you can subscribe to me, but you shouldn't. You should not do any of these things. As usual, Jim, I'll take my leave. Take care, I am Canadian. Always a pleasure, my friend. Do you know Street Spirit Fade Out by Radiohead? I don't think I do, but we can give it a whirl. But I'm going to start with Darkness at the Heart of My Love by Ghost, because I've been on a real Ghost kick lately. I hope I can sing this, I have no idea. When the summer dies, severing the ties, I'm with you always. Always. Will you walk the line? My path serpentine. Remember always, love is all you need. Know who you wanna be, and I will set you free. There's a darkness at the heart of my love that runs cold, runs deep. The darkness at the heart of my love for you. The song is very satanic, just saying. Because that's why I like those. Will you spill the wine to summon the divine? I'm with you always, always. I'll paint a pair of eyes, let's watch it as it dries. Remember always, love is all you need. Tell me who you wanna be, and I will set you free. There's a darkness at the heart of my love that runs cold, runs deep. Darkness at the heart of my love, so cold, so sweet. There's a darkness at the heart of my love that runs cold, runs deep. Darkness at the heart of my love for you. Remember always, love is all you need. Tell me who you wanna be, and I will set you free. There's a darkness at the heart of my love that runs cold, runs deep. The darkness at the heart of my love, so cold, so sweet. There's a darkness at the heart of my love, runs cold, runs deep. Darkness at the heart of my love, so cold, so sweet. And all this stuff, oh shit, I don't know this part. That I would put you through. Darkness at the heart of my love for you. When the sun dies, severing the ties, I'm with you always, always. Paint a pair of eyes, let's wash it as it dries. I'm with you always, always. Well, that was fun. All right, what was the song? Street Spirit. Karaoke, Street Spirit. Let's find out if I know it. If I don't, I'll just pretend. And if I pretend, it means I'm just gonna sing whatever works, and maybe I'll be right. Oh, this does not sound familiar. Rows of houses all bearing down on me. I can feel them blue hands touching me. All these things into position, all these things will one day swallow whole. I have no idea how this goes. Fade out again. Fade out. This machine will not communicate these thoughts and the strain I'm under. Be a world child, form a circle before we all go under. I have no idea. Fade out again. This is good. I'm glad. I'm guessing. Fade out again. Oh, that's terrible. Does that say cracked eggs? Cracked eggs, dead birds scream as they fight for life. I can feel death, can see its beady eyes. All these things into position, all these things will one day swallow whole. I'm okay with that. That wasn't as awful as it could have been. All right, let's. The next song that I had suggested for doing was Interstate Love Song, which is a song I love, and I haven't listened to in a long time. Was that interesting? I'm glad that worked out. Little Stone Temple Pilots, songs of my childhood, or youth at least. Then I should do some punk rock to spice things up. Waiting on a Sunday afternoon for what I read between the lines. Feeling like a hand in rusted shade. So do you laugh those dry eyes? Blind. This song takes me back to like working in this arcade in shitty downtown mall and playing this. Leaving on a southern train only yesterday. You lied, promises of what I see. Watch the time go by. All of these things you said to me. It's a hell of a good song, though. The hardest thing to do. With all I've said, always take for you. You lied. Bye. Leaving on a southern train only yesterday. You lied. Promises of what I seem to be. Only watch the time go by. All of these things I said to you. All right. We're gonna do some Dead Kennedys now, because everything was pretty for a while there, and I can't handle that.
The landlord's here to visit. The blasting disco down below. There's a devil in the red, cause the building's condemned. Now you're gonna hit the city hall. Fuck, but we can. We know we can. But we can, we know we can. Let's listen, landlord man.
I should try going an octave down.
I tell him turn on the water. I tell him turn on the heat. He tells me all you ever do is complain. Yeah, since the place that I'm not here. But we can, you know we can. But we can, you know we can. Let's listen to landlord, let's listen to landlord, let's listen to landlord man.
God, I love me some Dead Kennedys.
There's rats chewing up the kitchen, roaches up to my knees. Turn the oven on, it smells spectacular. Yeah, the rain pours through the ceiling. But we can, you know we can. But we can, you know we can. Let's reach the landlord, let's reach the landlord, let's reach the landlord man. The landlord man.
That was fun. But fun is only half of the project. It's all about becoming a huge karaoke star. What's gonna be a good song for me to sing to really highlight what I bring to the table? Ooh. I wonder if they have this song. I don't know. Oh, they do. Oh, wait, that's not karaoke. Did I add a karaoke? Oh, In the Style of Hair. We'll try. This will not be in my range. Are they gonna show lyrics? No, they're not. What the fuck, folks? How is it karaoke if you don't see that? Oh, wait. This might be it. Sodomy. Oh, cunnilingus, pederasty. Father, why do these words sound? Oh, fuck right off, you bastards. Did you see that, people? I wasn't hitting the notes anyways. I don't know what the hell I was supposed to start on, and it was not good. So we're just not going to do that. Let's do some Iron Maiden. But I'm like sketchy on Iron Maiden because I don't know any of it as good as I should. We'll do Fear of the Dark because I know that song. I love Iron Maiden. My biggest sadness was last week I wanted to do Boys in the Bright White Sports Car by Trooper, and that isn't in karaoke, but there's like a karaoke version, and it's got their voices, and it's just like, you guys are assholes. This is my favorite version too. This is, I think, Riot and Rio, and like the whole, like all these Brazilian kids just singing along, like it's just so fucking good. I am a man who walks alone when I'm walking a dark road at night or strolling through the park. When the light begins to fade, I sometimes feel a little strange, a little anxious when it's dark. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. I used to think this was the devil's children. Run your fingers down the wall and your neck skin crawl when you're searching for the light. Did not hit those notes. Sometimes you're scared to take a look at the corner of the room, since something's watching you. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark,
fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. Have you ever been alone at night, but you heard footsteps behind, turned around and no one's there? As you quicken up your pace, find it hard to look again, because you're sure there's someone there. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that something's always there.
Minute and a half break. Fear of the dark, 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 fear of the dark. Watching horror films the night before, debating witches and folklore, the unknown troubles on your mind. Maybe your mind is playing tricks, your senses suddenly eyes fixed, forgets and shadows from behind. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. That moment, all these kids, you know, they're all lighters up and just like, yeah. When I'm walking a dark road, I am a man who walks alone. Just a good song. I had this pop in my head the other day, Machines of Loving Grace. This song was in the Crow soundtrack. I don't know if I remember it, but we're gonna find out because I liked it and it popped into my head so we can karaoke it. That was fun. I'm glad you liked that. I had fun with that. I was nervous about Iron Maiden because I hear a lot of people suck when they try to cover Iron Maiden. think I remember this well enough. Take care, Maria. Now, thank you for hanging out and watching. It's my pleasure. I am sitting. Oh, that's too high. I am the bug. That's too low. I am blowing the motherfucking dark. I'm shocked and I see. I don't want to believe no more. No more. No more. I love the sludge groove in this. Of the tenement, city of souls, give me your tide and your wick, give me your dollar a horse. Bearing the boulevard, children are sold to pave the way for your streets of gold, streets of gold. Stop applauding. Simple little trills over top of it with the guitar. Shit. Chosen one. I don't remember this. I am the chosen one. I am the chosen one. Shit, are we just gonna I am the chosen one for a while now? I am the chosen one. I am the chosen one. That's it. I am the chosen one. I am the chosen one. I am the chosen one. I'm still the chosen one. The fucking chosen one. Yeah, it's getting a little repetitive. We're doing this for like another. Yeah, we actually are. So we're just gonna stop that song now. Alright, because that was getting boring. Alright, that made me think of my life with the Thrill Kill Cult. The Daisy Chain for Satan, The Days of Sweat. After the Flesh is the one that I was thinking of. This is also from the Crow soundtrack.
I am the new way to go. I am the way of the future. I am the new way to go. I am the way of the future.
There's a lot of innocent people being crucified.
You things of the flesh, do it slow. Now avenues, fuck me, lust my eyes. Licking lips, encouraging Mr. Careworn to gaze upon a screen bascon after the flesh.
I am the way of the future. I am the way of the future.
Will infect your carnal mind.
that you're enjoying while it's helping you clean. Walk through forests with ugly spirits. Kissed their feet and found them calm. I don't have any money. My body suffers after the flash.
The way of the future. I'm the way of the future. I'm the way of the future.
God damn, man, I loved My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. They were so good. What else do I feel like singing? 2:51. I'm probably gonna do like another 10 minutes. Let's look for Frank Turner. A little different vibe. I still believe recovery. I am disappeared. Long live the Queen. I'm gonna fucking cry as I sing this song. This is so... You're just going to be able to laugh at me here. I was sipping on a whiskey when I got the call. Yeah, my friend Lex was lying in the hospital. Pretty sick for about a half a year, but it seemed like it was time the end was drawing near. So I dropped my plans and jumped to the next London train. I found her laid up and in a lot of pain. Eyes met mine and then I understood that her weather forecast wasn't looking too good. So sat and spun her stories for a little while. Tried to raise her mood and tried to make her smile. She silenced all my ramblings with a shake of her head. Drew me close, said, listen, this is what she said now. You'll live to dance another day. Just now you'll have to dance for the two of us. Stop looking so damn depressed. Sing with all your heart. The Queen is dead. She just had a hospital food of doctors, distant relatives draining her blood. She said, I know I'm dying, but I'm not finished just yet. Yeah, I'm dying for a drink and for a cigarette. So we hatched a plan to book ourselves a cheap hotel in the center of the city and to raise some hell. Then waste to all the clubs and then when everyone else is long asleep, then when we're good and done, you'll learn to dance another day. It's just now you'll have to dance for the two of us. Stop looking so damn depressed. Sing with all your heart. The Queen is dead. South London's not the same anymore. The Queen is dead. The last of the greats has finally gone to bed. Well, I was working on some words when Sarah called me up. She said that Lex had gone to sleep and wasn't waking up. Dad, choked up, sorry. In there, now she was gone. So I tried to think what Lex would want me to do at times like this when I was feeling blue. So I gathered up some friends to spread the sad, sad news. We headed to the city for a drink or two and we sang. We live to dance another day. It's just now we have to dance for one more of us. Stop looking so damn depressed. Sing with all our hearts. Long live the Queen. That was exactly what I promised. I totally had my voice get all crunchety because I was choking on feels. Fucking hell. I believe... Oh, there's no karaoke version of it, unfortunately. 1933 is a great Frank Turner song. I was like, I should sing that. But there's no karaoke version. What else is good? I'm going to do, like, probably one more song. And everyone that's listening is lurking, so I'm going to have to figure it out for myself. Let's do something cheeseball, 80s, arena rock bullshit. I have no idea if I can sing this or not. We will find out. If you have lighters, now is the time. If I remember this at all. I can't tell you, baby, what went wrong. Fuck, I don't remember it. I can't make you feel what you felt. No, it's not working. Which is a shame, because don't know what you got till it's gone is exactly the kind of cheese that I was looking for. Let's just type in arena rock. Let's see what it says. Cyndi Lauper, live, Rage Against the Machine, Simon and Garfunkel. I don't think that worked. I don't think it knows what arena rock means. Ooh, System of a Down Aerials. Which one of them? No, I'm not doing System of a Down. Too many words, not enough me being good at them. Okay, what's a good arena rock band? Bon Jovi. I've done Bon Jovi stuff before. We'll do Bed of Roses. I don't all the way know this song either, but it should be shitty cheesy enough. Ooh. Right in the sternum of your heart. I don't know how the verse goes. I might have to fake it. Find out. I have not heard this song in like 15 years. Sitting here wasted and wounded at this old piano. I don't know. Trying hard to capture the moment this morning, I don't know. 'Cause a bottle of vodka still lodged in my head. Some blonde gave me nightmares. I think she's still in my bed. That doesn't even make rhythmic sense. As I dream about movies, you don't wanna think of me when I'm dead. With an ironclad fist, I wake up and French kiss the morning. Something like that. Some marching band keeps its own beat in my head while we're talking about all the things that I long to believe, loving the truth and what you mean to me. The truth is, baby, you're all that I need. I wanna lay you down a bed of roses. For tonight, I sleep on a bed of nails. far away. Each step that I take's on my way home. A king's ransom in dimes I'd give each night to see through this payphone. Still I run out of time, or it's hard to get through, till the bird on the wire flies me back to you. Just close my eyes and whisper, baby, blind love is true. I wanna lay you down in the bed of roses. For tonight I sleep on a bed of nails. Oh, I wanna be just as close as the Holy Ghost is, and lay you down on a bed of roses. This hotel bar hangover, whiskey's gone dry. The barkeeper's wig's crooked and she's giving me the eye. Well, I might have said yeah, but I laughed so hard I think I died. Oh yeah, I still don't know the fucking verse. There's more coming, I'm sure of it. Now as you close your eyes, know I'll be thinking about you. While my mistress, she calls me to stand in her spotlight again. Tonight I won't be alone, but you know that don't mean I'm not lonely. Got nothing to prove, but it's you. I died at a fair. Shit. I wanna lay you down in a bed of roses. For tonight I sleep on a bed of nails. Oh, I wanna be just as close as the Holy Ghost is, and lay you down. I wanna lay you down in a bed of roses. For tonight I sleep on a bed of nails. Oh, I wanna be just as close as the Holy Ghost is, and lay you down on a bed of roses. Such a shitty song. I'm gonna check one thing. I want to see if they have any Voodoo Glow Skulls. Band Geek Mafia, Stranger Than Juggle. I've done this before, haven't I? I've looked. They do have stuff, but nothing I know off the top of my head. Alright, that's cool. What was the other thing that popped into my head? Oh yeah, I was going to look and do a different Ghost song, because I can. I could do Spillways. I think we're going to do Circe. And I don't know if I know this one all the way, so we'll find out. And then I will be done. I guess it's Circe. Or maybe it's not. I don't fucking speak whatever that is. Moment of truth coming. Love that chucking guitar. Shit, do I know the verse? I think I do. I feel your presence amongst us. You cannot hide in the darkness. Can you hear the rumble? Can you hear the rumble? It's calling. I know your soul is not tainted, even though you've been told so. Can you hear the rumble? Can you hear the rumble that's calling? I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. A candle casting a faint glow. You and I see eye to eye. Can you hear the thunder? Can you hear the thunder that's breaking? Now there is nothing between us. From now our merge is eternal. Can't you see that you're lost? Can't you see that you're lost without me? Feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. Can't you see that you're lost without me? I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. I can feel the thunder
the scars inside you. I can feel the thunder, it's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you. I forget if that's the end of the song or not. I feel like it is. Yeah, it totally is. All right. That wasn't awful for the first time I ever attempted that particular ditty. All right. Well, folks, it's been a good 3-hour hangout. Hope I had as much fun as you had, and by that I mean I hope you had as much fun as I had, but it came out backwards because why the fuck wouldn't it? I'm going to go. It's Christmas Eve. I have some things to do. I have stockings to hang by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon will be here. So I hope that this day in particular is awesome. I know it's a hard day for some people. I hope it's a good one for you. I hope it's a good one for everyone. And I hope that Santa Claus brings you all the shit, and Jesus gives you a high five, and your high school football coach gets testicular failure of some kind. It'll be good. It'll be good. Fuck that guy. So yeah, that's it. Another edition. Whatever the fuck this is that I'm doing.